In this video, we're going to discuss the idea of average cost. Average cost is the total cost for one individual unit of producing at a certain number of quantity. That is to say, in average cost, we kind of take into consideration the fixed costs and the variable costs and think about what each individual unit would cost in terms of the entire production. So to compute average cost for a unit, we take the total cost and divide by quantity. In this example, the cost for producing Q goods for a particular company can be modeled with the function C of Q equals 3,500 plus 8Q. In part A, we want to find the marginal cost. That's different than the average cost. Remember, the marginal cost is the same thing as the derivative of the cost function. So what we really want to find for marginal cost is C prime of Q. And so here, C prime of Q, the derivative of 3,500 would be 0, and the derivative of 8Q would be 8. So C prime of Q is actually just a number, 8. So even if I plug in 200, C prime of 200, no matter what, we would get 8. So here, the marginal cost is 8. That tells us the cost for producing each additional item at this level would be $8. The average cost, which we would write A of 200, would equal the cost of 200 items, so 3,500 plus 8 times 200 over the number of items produced, which is 200. And if we compute that number, we'll get 25.5. So what do these numbers show? The marginal cost, that MC equals 8, means each additional item costs $8. The average cost, which we got to be 25.5 or $25.50, means at this point, each item has cost $25.50 to produce. So let's look at what happens graphically, or what the average cost shows graphically. The average cost is the slope, and we want to keep that in mind. It's the slope of the line. It's the slope of the line from the origin to a point on the curve. So in this example here, we have this line to this point on the curve through the origin. The slope of that line would be the same thing as the average cost. So let's think about the relationship between average cost and marginal cost, keeping in mind that marginal cost is the slope of the tangent line at that point. So if marginal cost is less than average cost, that would be an example of like this point here. Why do I say that? Well, the slope of the cost function would be a very low number. It's almost horizontal. That slope would clearly be less than the slope of our average cost to that point. So here we have marginal cost less than average cost. If we increase production, we will decrease the slope of the average cost. So if I increase production, let's say if I pick this point up here, the slope of that line is actually less. The opposite is true. If we were to start on this line here and decrease production, we would result back at a greater slope for average cost. So this is kind of an important table here to just kind of memorize. It's a little bit hard to see visually, but if marginal cost is less than average cost, increasing production will decrease average cost. if marginal cost is greater than average cost, increasing production will increase average cost. And in the rare event that you get that they're equal. So if you look here, if you notice, for this line here, for my blue line, the slope of the cost function and the slope of the average cost function look to be about the same. If that happens, you have actually found the minimized or the smallest possible average cost. In this example, a producer is selling umbrellas for $12. They have an average cost of $2.50 and a marginal cost of $3.50. Assuming the company can produce 5,000 umbrellas. So we're going to assume that that average cost and marginal cost correspond to 5,000 umbrellas. We're going to answer each of the following. Is the company making a profit? If so, how much? Well, recall to determine profit, profit is revenue minus cost. So let's begin first by determining revenue. Revenue equals the price times the quantity. Well, if we're selling them for $12 and we're going to sell 5,000 of them, revenue will be $60,000. To get cost, we can actually now use average cost because we know that is the total cost that the company has incurred for an individual unit. So if their average cost is $2.50 times 5,000, then so far they have incurred a cost of $12,500. So it appears they've made a profit because revenue is greater than cost. In fact, their profit would be $60,000 minus $12,500. Or in other words, their profit in this situation would be $47,500. In part B, we're asked, how will increasing production affect average cost? Well, notice marginal cost is $3.50, so marginal cost is greater than average cost. Previously, we had discussed if marginal cost is greater than average cost will increase. Would you suggest the company continues production? I would say yes, and the reason is, remember, we want to consider what marginal cost tells us, the cost of each additional item. And so, since marginal revenue, in this case would be our $12, is greater than marginal cost. So if our $12 is greater than the $3.50 it would cost to make each one, then I would say yes, we should continue. Because you're going to actually generate a greater profit.